Good evening, everyone. My name's Dana Humphrey. I'm Dean of the College of Engineering. Thank you for joining us this evening. I can tell we're at the top of the hour because I can hear the bell ring in the background just in the room next to me, so we know we're right on time here. This session is for returning students, we've got several folks on the Zoom meeting tonight. I'm going to call on them to introduce themselves. I'm going to give a few introductory remarks, but mostly this is a Q&A. So for you folks to ask questions, and we'll do our best to take and provide answers. There is a Q&A function. If you bring your cursor, so this is for the attendees, bring your cursor down near the bottom, you'll see a Q&A button. So you can use that to type in questions. What I'd suggest you do now is actually, if you're willing, type in your first name and what your major is. That'll just kind of give us some sense of who's out there, and also might help us kind of direct some of the things that really put more emphasis on. So if you'd use that Q&A function to take and do that, that would be awesome. So with that, I'm going to call on the folks that are present here to answer questions, to introduce themselves. I'm going to call on them in the order they appear on my screen. So Silvestre Guzman, if you'd introduce yourself and say your role.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. Welcome to this meeting. My name is Silvestre Guzman, and I am an admissions counselor. If you have any questions about move-in dates or anything related to student life, by all means, please let me know, and I will do my best to answer those questions for you. Thank you.
Great. Silvestre, thank you. And David.
I'm Dave Nevant, Interim Chair of Electrical and Computer Engineering.
Thank you, David. And Will?
Hi, everyone. I'm Will Mannion, Director of the School of Engineering Technology, which includes 4 programs: Construction Engineering Technology, Mechanical Engineering Technology, Electrical Engineering Technology, and Surveying Engineering Technology.
Great. Thank you, Will. And Hemant?
Hemant Pensai, Chair of Chemical and Biomedical Engineering. You see the Janess Hall virtual, but the real Janess Hall is waiting for you. We are all.
Great. Thank you, Hemant. Bill?
Yeah, Bill Davids, Professor and Chair of Civil and Environmental Engineering.
Hi, I'm Lori Fullerton. I'm right in your Dean's office along with Dean Humphrey. Stand ready to help anytime.
Great. Thank you, Lori. And Masood?
Of course.
And good evening, everyone. Masood Rais Rohani, Chair of Mechanical Engineering.
Great. And John?
I'm John Thompson. I'm the Chair of Physics and Astronomy, so I'm representing the Engineering Physics program.
Thank you, John. And also behind the scenes, we have Chris Carlin, who's just kind of monitoring the technology. So with that, I'm just going to give a few remarks. We're very much looking forward to you coming back to campus. One of the things that I've become very impressed with over the last couple of weeks is the level of preparation that the campus has been doing to get ready for you. This includes a very rigorous COVID-19 testing program, meaning that when any student is living in a dorm will receive a COVID-19 test. Any student who's living off campus who is also from out of state will receive a COVID-19 test. Very, very rigorous program, and it's one of the many things that we're doing to get ready for you. We've adjusted the capacity for our classrooms. There's going to be hand sanitizing stations at multiple locations. Every classroom is going to have a dispenser for antibacterial wipes that can be used by you. Certainly, some of our expectations when you come back to campus is that when you're outside of your dorm room, meaning walking to class, in laboratory, you are expected to wear a mask and to practice appropriate social distancing. And this is all part of the great thought that's come into getting ready to bring you folks back to campus. One of the things that we've put a lot of effort into within the college is really adjusting how we're going to deliver our courses, our laboratories, to take and match the constraints that are imposed by COVID-19 and to take and meet the learning goals for the courses. Across the college as a whole, for this coming semester, we have 267 total course sections. And that would include lectures, it includes laboratories, and of course for many laboratories there are multiple sections of that particular lab, but in total we've got 267. Of those, 38% are completely online, so they're remote delivery. 25% is face-to-face, meaning that all the interactions are expected to be face-to-face, and 37% are hybrid. So it's a mixture of remote delivery and face-to-face. So for the courses that will have at least some face-to-face component, that adds up to about 62%. Now, of course, for an individual student, and this may be affecting, I'm sure this is affecting several on this, your makeup of how you're going to receive your individual classes is probably not matching the average for the college as a whole. So there may be some of you who are mostly remote. There are some of you who are a mix. But what we tried to do is to really take the constraints imposed by COVID-19. And as engineers, one of the things we work with are constraints on the problem. And then we took and within those constraints really designed a program that was going to take and meet your needs. Now, some of you may need to be requesting an adjustment to the schedule that you've received. You should have received an email that provided you a form that allows you to submit those requests in an organized fashion. Those forms are due on the 10th of this month, so that's this coming Monday, and we'll endeavor to assess those and get those back to you as soon as within a week. So by the 17th of August. There are some individuals who are going to experience special circumstances that we're going to accommodate. And there's really three categories of circumstances that are there. One is there may be individuals that have a documented chronic medical condition that will prevent them from attending face-to-face classes. And we say documented, that is a process to work through student accessibility services to take and provide that documentation. Second category is there may be some of you that during the course of the semester become ill because we all become ill from time to time, and of course we have COVID-19 out there as well. Those are the types of things that would be expected to be documented with a note from a doctor or a medical professional. We understand that you may wake up in the morning and it's like, boy, I'm not feeling well. I don't have time to get that note before class. But it's something you can, obviously you don't feel well, you do need to get yourself the appropriate attention. And as part of that, we just ask that you take and get that note from a doctor or other medical professional. Then the third category is it may be, you may find yourself in a circumstance where you've been told that you need to quarantine because that you were in proximity with someone who did have, who tested positive for COVID-19. For those three categories, if it's face-to-face or hybrid, we'll work with you, take and accommodate those needs. Those are the three basic categories. Now, there are other things that you can request, and we can look and see if it's possible to accommodate them. But in general terms, if a class is face-to-face, we can't take the class and just take and make it the whole thing remote. And we don't have, we just can't with 267 different sections out there. But you know, use that form to request what your needs are. We'll examine them, and those that we can accommodate, we will. One note about the types of questions that are appropriate to ask tonight. So these are, I would say, more general questions. If you have a very specific question, I need to drop this course and I need to add a different course, that's not the type of thing we can take and address in this. What you need to use is the form that was sent out to take and address those issues. Some of the things to look forward to this semester is we're going to have our engineering job fair this year. It's going to be a virtual fair, and a typical fair held at the New Balance Student Recreation Center. We would probably have at any point in time 1,000 plus people in that space. Clearly with COVID-19, we just can't do that. But the Career Center has set up a great virtual career fair. It's going to be held on the same day. The companies will be present virtually with their representatives, just like you do when you go to the real career fair. Sometimes you kind of have to stand in line a little bit to kind of get your turn to talk to the representative. So they're going to have queues so you can take and talk to the representatives. The companies will actually have the opportunity to have more representatives. Since they're not space limited, when we're actually in the New Balance Recreation Center, we have to limit how many they can bring just by virtue of space. So that's something to look forward to. If you don't already have one and you are returning students, if you don't have a resume, you need to make a resume. That's important. And it'd be great if you worked with the Career Center, registered with them, and uploaded that before the job fair. This will actually allow the representatives to virtually look at your resume while you're talking to them. I know in the physical career fair, some of you are walking around with that stack of resumes. Can't do that, but the way to do that is to get your resume uploaded virtually. The final thing that I'll do before opening this up to questions and answers is one of the things we've been working very hard on is the new Furlan Engineering Education and Design Center. That is an image of or an artist rendering of the completed building. This building is scheduled for completion in the summer of 2022. So meaning that we'll have classes, laboratories, et cetera in there when students return for classes in fall of 2022. Just to give you a sense of where we are on the project, what I'm going to do is switch to share screen. We have a construction webcam, and I'm going to quickly flip through so you can kind of see the progression about what we've done so far. So give me a moment so I can take and do that. Wrong button. Try a different button, Dana. There we go. Okay. So hopefully you're looking at the image of the site. So I can see John on my screen here. Nod your head. Yes, John. Yep. Okay. Good. All right. So this is the site is the machine tool lab, which we're looking at right here. This is as we start to demolish the building. So I'm going to advance one day at a time, and there are some weekend days in here. So there are days when nothing much happens. Okay, so we're going to advance one day. Okay, one day the building's almost gone. Another day, building's completely flattened. Now we got a weekend, so nothing much is happening for a while. Okay, now they're hauling off the debris. Most of the debris is gone, almost down to the last little bit. Now they've got a clean floor slab. Then there was a little pause, so I'm going to go quickly through a couple of days here where we're just kind of looking at the exposed slab. And now they're starting to get ready to mobilize to take and continue with the digging up the foundation, which is the next step. And we'll get there eventually here. We'll get there. There we go. We're getting a truck on site and some people walking around. That's a good sign. Get more people walking around. So now what they're doing is actually digging up the foundation for the building. One of the things that the contractor found out and was extremely pleased with, the concrete for this foundation had no reinforcing in it. It was very easy for them to dig up. They loved it. So now they're getting rid of the foundation, and then we'll get to a point where they're continuing to dig it up. These two holes in the background there, those are places where the existing building had a basement. Okay, so they just left those are basically the exposed holes from the basement that was present at the site. And now we got a little bit of a pause before they get to the next step. So now we're starting to get a little bit of equipment out there, some pipe, some trucks, a little bit more equipment. Now we're starting to build up the forest of stuff they need to build it. So you're starting to see the accumulation of all the manholes and catch basin risers and such, and trench boxes, does rain some days. So now they're getting more equipment. Now they're doing utility work. More utility work. Continues with that. Now they're digging the hole for the building. And I'm only clicking ahead by 1 day, so you can get a sense for how fast some of this goes. Now we got a couple of weekend days in here. So now they're back to digging. We do have bedrock that they're using a ram hoe to take and remove bedrock. And that is a slow, painstaking process. I'm glad I'm not that particular equipment operator. And this is, we're up to, let's see, maybe I got 1 or 2 more days here. And that is August 5th. So that is today. So that just gives you a sense for what we have, what we've been doing with that project. And one of the things you're going to get to see when you come back to campus, you're going to get to see that building rise up out of the ground. And no matter what your engineering major is, that is a great thing to watch. And being back on campus is a great way to take and do that. So that is kind of the introductory remarks here. So I'm going to get the Q&A screen up so I can see what's been coming in here. So we've got students from mechanical engineering, chemical, mechanical. Okay. And then now we're starting to get down to questions, which is great. So let me do my best. Let's see, I've already lost a question here.
Dana, I just answered the question, that's why.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so some of the things to just kind of, so let me just kind of address just to make sure everybody's seeing some of those. So it's color equipped to give out notes for everyone who needs to miss class for a non-COVID illness. It's typically almost impossible to get same day or sometimes even same week appointment usually. And we'll correctly answer, you can get a note later. But trying to get that documentation is there. And certainly if you are ill, definitely get help. And then we've got what would be the protocol when UMaine gets an outbreak. Well, there'll be a system to go to on 100% online. This was a long topic for discussion for a call I was on at 8 o'clock this morning. And it's going to depend on a lot of factors. So one of the things I think we should be expecting, and it would not be at all surprising, given the number of students who will be returning to campus come really just 2.5 or so weeks from now, is that there's probably going to be at least a couple of positive cases. We have spaces for COVID-19. We have spaces to isolate those students. We have spaces to isolate students who have been in contact with those students, which is part of the preparation that we've made. As far as the criteria for when we go online, is well answered. It's correct. It depends. And so it's not that we get the first case and poof, everybody is gone. But if it's happening at a rate that we can take and properly isolate the individuals, if they need medical treatment, direct medical treatment because they're experiencing symptoms, that they have access to that, the treatment that they need, are we able to take and do contact tracing? And it will not be just, okay, you get over a certain threshold and okay, now you flip a switch. It could be that we ratchet, meaning some of the activities that were face-to-face, we may take and ratchet some of those back a little bit. And of course, we don't have the ability to take and predict exactly where this is going to go this fall, but we do know that we successfully transitioned from a normal class schedule to a completely online or remote delivery this past spring. So we know if we have to do it, we can do it. One of the things that's important, I think, for all the students is you need to keep your eye on the prize. The prize is that engineering degree. So make sure you continue to make positive progress for that. the demand for engineers, even in this COVID-19 environment, is still out there. I was on a job, it's basically a job tracking service called Burning Glass Technologies. I was on there early this week. In Maine, since the beginning of the year, there's been 870 job postings for engineers. And that's only running a little bit behind where it was at this time last year. So you need to keep the eye on the prize and deal with the situation as it presents itself and keep moving ahead toward that degree. So let me see here. All right. So we've also got an electrical engineering technology student on the call. That's great. And let's see here. Let me scroll down. So we got a question about besides an initial test before coming to campus, what is UMaine doing to test students and staff regularly? I'm concerned that although you are negative one day, you'll be positive the next and spreading without symptoms. So what we're doing that testing as I described at the beginning. So all students living in a dorm will be tested, all the staff that takes, and because there's staff that lives in dorms too, they're all tested. So we're kind of creating this known environment. The non-resident students who are from out of state, who are non-resident, you're gonna be tested. It's irregardless of which state you're from, whether it's one of the states where there's an exception from. And then beyond that, it's gonna be testing on a strategic basis. So for the individuals and areas where we need testing, we'll do it. We're doing other things that are gonna take and monitor the campus as a whole. One of the most effective ways to do that is actually to monitor the wastewater that leaves campus because COVID-19 is present in fecal matter and we are actually monitoring that. So if we have things that are indicated, so as we're taking monitor that, that'll give us an indication of the campus as a whole, are conditions changing, and that's what will take and trigger the need for paying closer attention to testing. At this point, there isn't a plan to take and say, test every student every other day or every week. It's gonna be more on a strategic basis. Okay.
Dana, could I add just a quick thing to that?
Please, Will.
Yeah, I know in the School of Engineering Technology, all our face-to-face labs, we're going to do COVID screenings for every class. So temperature checks and a series of questions to try to catch stuff too. But we work pretty closely together in those classes.
Right, and that's going to be present for some buildings as well. And in addition, everybody's going to have a symptoms tracking app for their phone. And you are expected to take your own temperature in the morning because if you are starting to experience symptoms, it's much better you determine in the morning before you leave the dorm than when you show up in one of Will's labs. So there's multiple things we're doing to take and track what's happening on campus, and testing used appropriately is only one component of that. Anything else that anybody would like to take and add to that particular point before we kind of move on to a different one? And the next question is actually going to be for you, Masood, so you might want to take yourself off mute. So the question is, how are mechanical engineering seniors handling, it says remote capstone projects, but I'll just generalize that to say, how are you handling your capstone projects?
Okay, so as you know, capstone is actually done in a 2-semester sequence. So in the first semester, students in groups spend a lot of time coming up with various conceptual design and going through analysis and finalizing the design that would then be built in the second semester, which would be spring of 21. So we will expect that students will be able to collaborate, although it may be in a remote format, but they will still be collaborating teams. They will still be able to interact with their instructor as well as their mentors. So one thing we will be doing this semester that's going to be new is that a number of ME faculty have agreed to serve as a mentor for one or more teams. And I think that's going to be very helpful in students pursuing specialized projects that a particular faculty member may be better suited to support than the designated instructor. But that is the plan moving forward. We shall see what we have to do for spring 21 based on the conditions that we will have, I guess, ahead of us at that time.
Great. Thank you, Masood. The next question I'm actually going to turn to Silvestri for, and if needed, I can jump in as well. But the gist of the question is the student has a conflict on their assigned move-in day. How do they request a different assigned move-in day?
Yes, they can reach out to the Residence Life staff and they will be able to accommodate that request. Just give me a few seconds here. Let me get that email and I will get back to that student. Just give me a second, please.
Yeah, that's right. So residential, actually on the form that gave you your assigned day, I believe there's a, although I've not seen the form or the message, I believe there's an email address for you to take and request a different day. And I didn't read publicly the whole question, but I understood the underlying reasons for that particular question. But if you can't, take and request a different day. Just to back up just for a bit, the reason that we're staggering, we have the students coming in over the course of almost a week, is so that we can take and have a manageable number of students arriving in a day so that we can actually take the COVID-19 sample, get it to the lab in Connecticut using a courier service, and then get the results. So that within 24 to 72 hours, depending on how the exact timing. But there's a reason for this staggering. And as engineers, again, we kind of work with constraints on problems. And one of the constraints is how many COVID-19 samples can you actually take in a day and process? And so that's what's kind of governing that part of it.
I do have the email address now, Dean Humphrey.
Yes, great.
So the ResLife email address is um.reslife@maine.edu.
Okay, and maybe you could type that into the chat box.
Yes, of course, I will do that. And I will also include the phone number here.
That'd be awesome.
Thank you.
Great. So we got other great questions that are coming in. A great engineering question, which is, are there any air filtration upgrades to ensure possible aerosol transmission doesn't occur? Another great topic that's been worked on very hard by folks at facilities management who graduated from UMaine engineering. So we know they've got a good education. What we're focusing on more than just filtration, we're trying to maximize the number of air exchanges. And of course, we have buildings with vastly, if you go from building to building, the air handling system can be vastly different depending on the age of the building. If we think of a building like Boardman Hall, which is where I spent a lot of my academic career, I think the air exchange system is opening the windows. There is no, except for limited air exchange in restrooms, which they've taken and amped that up as much as they can. But there's other buildings where that's a very, very, that's an engineering solution that we're trying to maximize the number of air exchanges. I'll also just kind of pick up just on one word from that question. Again, I'm reading this as an engineer because it's got the wording, ensure possible aerosol transmission doesn't occur. Well, of course, we know that there's not an engineering solution that ensures that there is none. That's not possible. What we're trying to do is to take and use engineering controls to take and minimize that transmission. So now we've got a question to clarify is the adjustment form if you have a class with in-person attendance and you aren't able to safely attend? The answer is yes. That is a reason to use that form. Give us the reason, and if it's a document, and the key word is, words are a documented medical condition working through student accessibility services, and we will take and accommodate those needs. You can take and use the form to request other changes and we'll examine them, do what we can, but there are going to be requests that we're just not going to be able to fulfill. It's just not possible given the volume of courses that we offer. Okay, so now the next one, if we can go online, if it gets really bad, why are we waiting for that to happen? Another great question. We believe that there is great value in having students have face-to-face courses, have the ability to come to campus and interact with their fellow students, because only 25% of your time do you actually spend in class or in laboratory. The other 75% is working on problems outside of class. Some of that involves consulting with your classmates. We talk about a laboratory, and there can be some things done to take and have a completely remote laboratory. However, you're missing something as part of that. And in my view, one of the skills I think it's critical for every engineering student to build up is the ability to diagnose something when it's not working right. So you're trying to do a laboratory experiment, it's not working right. Why? Why is it not working right? And that really can only be done in that hands-on environment. I certainly experienced that as a student. The reason I have no hair on my head right here, that's because I spent way too much time as a student scratching my head trying to figure out why the darn thing wasn't working. But developing that skill is part of what it takes to be an engineer. And frankly, you're not going to really be able to build up that skill remotely. So that's why what we have is we have a mix of remote classes, face-to-face classes and labs, and hybrid classes and labs. Okay, so let me see. So next one, do in-state, off-campus students have to get COVID-19 testing before the start of classes? My understanding on that is the answer is no. And just kind of repeat the question to make sure that we all get the connection to the answer. So for in-state, off-campus students, you're not required to get a COVID-19 test. So that's the answer to that one. So the next one is actually question is actually one of the ones that we're still struggling with, and that is and I'll read the question. What if you live with a high-risk person that ends up feeling uncomfortable, gets sick, etc., and there are cases on campus? We have an option to decide in the middle of the semester to change your in-person class to online modalities in the middle of the semester. And that's a question that we're still working on. And certainly you can request it. One of the challenges is that some courses and the way that we're teaching them with students in person, trying to take and just flip the switch and have students be remote can be very challenging. But that's one that we're still struggling with, and we don't fully have the answer to that one. The next question is, will the 6-foot distance be required in labs? And the answer for that is yes. So the number of students we can have in a lab room or a laboratory has been reduced to allow that to happen. And you're going to be wearing a face mask in lab as well. So it's not, this to kind of back up a little. So we're not in a situation where you have 6-foot spacing or you wear a mask, okay? We're 6-foot spacing and a mask. There may be some very limited circumstances where 6-foot spacing is not important. We may be, and for those particular laboratories, we have things like a plexiglass barrier that's taking and separating some of the individuals, or we take and layer on additional protections, such as you're wearing a face shield as well as the mask. But the way that we're trying to set up the laboratories is with that 6-foot spacing. Okay. The next one is, will the bathrooms in dorms and other buildings be kept sanitized so we don't get sick? So I can address the first part, which of that is, will it be sanitized? Is yes. and the same for academic buildings. So they've hired additional janitorial staff, which will be on campus during the day when people are active and taking and moving about, that's going to be taking and roving around and taking and sanitizing high-touch surfaces like pull handles on doors, restrooms, and such. And so they're going to rove around campus. Normally, janitorial services, especially in the academic buildings, are performed in the evening and at night. So that's why you may not, being on campus during the day, you actually might not even see a janitor, but they've hired additional custodial staff to basically be roving around, taking and sanitizing bathrooms and other pull handles on exterior doors and things like that that are more the high touch surfaces. The next one, and I'm getting down to the last question here, so there's plenty, and we got plenty of time left, so go ahead and ask more. But the question is there going to be reduced dorm fees since we'll only be there for half a semester? Well, it's actually a little bit more than half the semester, but I believe that the answer is yes. Silvestri, maybe you could address that.
Yes, that is correct. The adjustment has been already made. And if you have any questions about that, you can contact the housing services directly, or you can access this information through your student portal. The majority of the students already have the room and board fees on their account through your student portal. So please log in. And if you don't see that, you may then contact the housing services.
Yes, thank you, Silvestri. And just to remind everyone, what underlies that question is because once folks go home for Thanksgiving break, from that point on, we will be 100% remote. And just to kind of understand kind of what the mindset is and kind of what's behind this is once we get folks to campus, we get folks tested. If you need to be quarantined, you're quarantined. We kind of have, it's not a complete bubble like the NBA is trying to do, but we got at least a little bit of a bubble. Once folks go home for Thanksgiving and then come back again, we kind of have to start over. And with the relatively short period of time between the end of Thanksgiving break and the end of the semester, that's just not possible. But that's kind of what underlies that particular question. And Silvestri gave the answer to the very specific question. I got to scroll down to the next question there. Will there be lots of hand sanitizer available in buildings? And the answer is absolutely. And there'll be multiple dispensers available for hand sanitizer in classrooms. Rather than hand sanitizer, there'll be actually wipes, because certainly you can use a wipe to take and wipe off your hands, but you can also use wipes to wipe down surfaces, which you can't really do with a hand sanitizer dispenser. And then, okay. Yeah, so the next part of this is, seeing how few restrooms there are. It doesn't seem possible for everyone to wash their hands as much as we're supposed to. There are a finite number of restrooms and therefore a finite number of wash basins, which I think indicates why hand sanitizers, in fact, are important. Okay, I'm going to keep scrolling down here because the questions keep on coming in here. So now we're really thinking ahead. So the next question is, so just to confirm, spring semester 2021 is 100% remote. The answer to that is we haven't gotten that far yet. So when I say you're going home after spring break and you're not coming back, that's only for the fall semester. It's not for spring. And to be, there's certainly scenarios in people's minds about what spring of 2021 will look like. However, we're not putting a lot of our planning effort into spring 2021 just yet. And the chairs know they're already, establishing their schedules and things like that. But we really need to take and kick off fall of 20, and that will greatly inform us as to, and plus we'll continue to monitor how COVID-19 develops, and that will inform what spring of 2021 is going to look like. And again, part of, I'm going to say two different things here. Part of, how you might think about this problem is this is, in many respects, it's an engineering problem. In that, you take and you start down a path, you're making observations, and then you're taking and making adjustments. And that is kind of the process the campus is following. The second thing is, one of the critical resources we have on campus is we have a scientific advisory board who's made up of faculty members who have particular expertise in the spread of contagious diseases. And one engineering faculty member is on that, Caitlin Howell from biomedical engineering. And certainly we have faculty members who are other expertise in infectious disease. They're going to help us inform, okay, now that we see how things are going in fall of 20, okay, what are we going to do in spring of 2021? Okay, so we still got more questions coming, so I'm going to keep on scrolling down here. Will food be served at the Union for commuter students? I don't fully have, I could guess at the answer. I don't know, Sylvester, do you have any hints as to what they're going to do for food service in the Union?
Yes, my understanding is that they will be open and they will be operating at normal hours like they did last year, but they will reduce the seating capacity by the dining area. Mm-hmm. So it will be mostly takeouts.
Right.
I don't have the details, but the operating hours will remain the same as last year.
Yeah, and Sylvester, that's my understanding too. And I have watched a short video put out by Dining Services that I thought was very, very informative and kind of helpful in that regard as well. But it didn't give the hours. But we all have to eat. And one of the things that some of the faculty on the call have heard me say is that food is one of the universal lubricants of life. Meaning, and it's not just that we need it for nutrition, socializing as we eat is a natural human endeavor. However, we just have to accept that for right now, that's going to be much different than we've come to expect. Okay, so let's see. So the next question is, if we do have to leave halfway through the semester to go remote, if that actually happens, will there be a refund for the dorm students for the rest of the semester dorm fees? So I'll answer that one first before I continue on to the second part. So that's not something I'm in charge of. However, I'll make the observation that UMaine was very quick to do that when we needed to send students home at spring break this past spring, and I would assume it would be the same. But I'm not in charge of that particular one. So the next question is, if I do get sick or test positive, do you have a plan for me to quarantine in my room with food and personal bathrooms so I don't go home and get my family sick? We have the plan, but the plan's a fuzz different than the question was asked. So if you test positive, or if you are exposed to someone who's powered to test positive, needs to be quarantined, we have a separate dormitory facility to put you in. And I don't have it memorized exactly which ones they are. So if you do test positive, say for COVID-19, we're not going to let you just sit in your normal dorm room, because we want to make sure you're not exposing your fellow dorm mates. So we have a place for students who actually do test positive, and then a separate place to quarantine students who have been exposed. And I would expect for those who have been exposed and are quarantined, that population is absolutely getting tested. And the key to getting out of testing, out of quarantine, is to get a negative test. So that is one of the strategic ways we'll take and deploy testing. And I think, the end point of that question, the concern about going home and getting your family sick is very, very valid. And we've tried to take and set up a system such that you will not need to so that will not need to be necessary. Okay, so so the next question is a very practical question. Should students refrain from going home during the semester and stay on campus to keep students from bringing something back to campus? I have not heard a university policy one way or the other on that. However, you know, once you get to campus, we kind of establish this environment that's relatively contained and safe to the extent that folks can kind of stick around. That's a good thing. However, you know, we're practical engineers. Some of you, especially those who don't live overly far from campus, you might have a job at home on the weekend. And if you're, use your good judgment, but, you know, we understand that, and that's kind of part of, you know, part of the deal here. But I'd say, you know, just from a practical perspective, you can stay on campus, do that. And it would just be if the place where you're going home to, or the place where you're going to a job, is a place that has high incidence of COVID-19, I just think that's unwise. And depending on what the regulations are from the state, our state, the state of Maine, depending on you know, what the regulations are to return to our state, you may need to quarantine for 14 days or get a negative COVID-19 test, because there are states that fall in that category right now. And of course, that will likely change over time and something that we need to monitor. So the next one is, will student workers be staffing dining halls in the library? A concern of mine is that student workers will not call out of work, even if they aren't feeling well, because sick time, PTO isn't such a thing that we have, our personal time off isn't a thing we usually have access to. I have to assume, and that's not something I don't have direct knowledge of you know, what the library plans to employ, what the dining halls plan to employ for student workers. I would say in general terms, we don't have the ability to, you know, student workers are key to helping campus run. And so, and I understand the question about sick time and personal time off. I'll actually ask, every week I'm on a call at 8 o'clock, which is an opportunity for me to ask questions. And I'll ask that one at the next 8 o'clock meeting. Let's see. So the next one, and I won't read all the details, but my sympathy goes out to this individual, and that, you know, in the justice, you know, can't we use engineering to find a way to do this remotely? And there certainly are multiple technologies that we're using to deliver some of our content remotely, and for some things, as I answered in the previous question, we really can't completely duplicate the learning experience with a remote setting, but we can do parts of it. Certainly, you know, engineers continue to take and make advances in that, and certainly it wouldn't surprise me if we do have select student groups, engineering student groups that are taking on different COVID-19 related questions. But all I can advise to this particular questioner, you know, take and use the form to take and send us, you know, to explain your circumstances to us. We'll examine it and we'll see what we can do. We're certainly in a time where we all have concern, and in some cases that concern is heightened because of individual circumstances, and we'll do the best we can given what we have to work with. Okay, so we still have a couple minutes here for more questions. So the question is, for students who cannot attend this Q&A session, will this Zoom be available to them since it is being recorded? The answer is yes, it will be available. I'm not sure how Chris Carlin, what technology he's going to use to make it available, but this will be available. I don't know, Chris, maybe if you could come off mute and maybe say a word or two about that.
Yep, this is all recorded to the cloud, and then once this is over, I can send
Yeah,
the
we can't
recording.
quite hear you, Chris.
I said once this is over, this will be recorded to the cloud, and then after that, I can share the link with everybody.
Okay, great. And when you say share the link with everybody, will that be with all engineering students?
Yep, we can certainly do that if need
Yeah.
be.
Yeah, so that's because the question was those who can't attend. So so obviously we got to take and address that. Maybe while so we still have time for some more questions, but what I'm going to do is actually go around to the folks on the screen here, just again in the order that you appear, but you've all been rearranged, so don't expect to be called on in the same order. And just say whatever you'd like to say to our returning students. And I'll call on you, David. You've moved up to the upper left corner.
There you go. Got a promotion. I've only been in the job for a month. Yeah. So I just wanted to say to the returning students, we're very much looking forward to having you back on campus. We put a lot of work and thought into making sure that we can be as safe as we possibly can and deliver you the best content that we can. So if you have questions, ECE students, reach out to me via email. You'll find that on the website, and I'll be happy to answer.
Great. Thank you, David. And Will, you're next.
Yep, I'll just echo what David said. We're looking forward to having you back. And just as kind of as a side note, I've been working in construction all summer with 180 construction workers on a construction site. We do daily check-ins, and we've had very little trouble with COVID. It's been a pretty successful story. So the point of that is this can be done well and can be done safely.
Great. Thank you, Will. Hammett, you're next.
Yes, I think we are prepared to accommodate students in unusual circumstances. I can be specific. This summer, we delivered our unit ops labs where Professor Wallach himself was in Janess Hall running the equipment, and students participated via Zoom and did the process control lab remotely. We're gonna do similar things for the fall labs. As long as one of the team member is physically present in Janess Hall, we'll figure out how other people can join via Zoom. So we can make it work.
Great. Thank you, Hammett. Bill?
Yeah, thanks, Dana. I'd like to echo the welcome back to everybody. I will say that the civil engineering faculty members have been working very hard, diligently all summer on this. And you're going to see a mix of modalities. Some classes are in person, some are online. For returning students, probably the most relevant ones would be class like CI 340 is going to be online. 350 is going to be like a flipped classroom with content delivered remotely, but groups broken up. 1/3 of the students come in each week for problem sessions, one with the instructor. A similar approach with CIE 331. Our labs are going to be reduced numbers. You're going to be in there for half of the normal 2 hours with half as many people. You'll still have a hands-on experience, but that's going to be supplemented with some other remote activities. And to echo what Will said, I think it is possible to do this safely. We're doing everything we can. We are a bit of a bubble up here in Maine. We've been very successful, especially in this part of Maine, very successful at keeping the case numbers down. But we are dependent on all of you to continue that when you come back. And we're all wearing masks when we're in the building and we're out of our offices and we're following all those rules and washing our hands regularly. And it's going to depend on all of us to make this work. And we're looking forward to having you back and working with us to have a really successful semester.
Great. Thank you, Bill. Laurie, you're next.
Yes, I just want to remind everyone that, we certainly, most certainly welcome the idea of welcoming you all back, and to remind you that your dean's office is your center of support. We're always in the business of anything that's elevated. We don't want anything to grow wings. We want you to feel like you can ask us anything. We're there to support you and stand ready to do so.
Thank you, Laurie.
Of course.
Masood?
I'd like everyone to know you are obviously current students, but I think you need to know that we are going to welcome the largest incoming class to mechanical engineering this year with over 145 students. And obviously they're going to be looking to you as their peers for you to set an example in how they should conduct themselves, how to be safe. And I also want you to know that we are doing our utmost to meet your needs. Whether that means recording class lectures, make them available to students in case they're unable to participate in person, or whether it means putting together a variety of models in how we're going to conduct labs in ME 442. Some of the labs will be recorded. We're going to reduce the number of students on each team, so you'll be able to come to the lab, conduct the experiment in a safe manner. I want you to know that we are taking all the safety precautions possible to make sure that everyone has a safe and pleasant semester. And we certainly need your help because this is going to be a teamwork. Thank you.
Thank you, Masood. John.
Yeah, I just want to echo everyone's welcome. That we're looking forward to having people back in Bennett Hall and on campus and seeing everybody. So, thank you.
Great. Thank you, John. Silvestri.
Thank you. Just echoing what Lori mentioned earlier, if your questions is not directly related to admissions and you don't know where to find that information, by all means, do not ever hesitate to reach out to us. If we don't have the answers that you're looking for, we will find that for you and connect you with the appropriate resources that we have on campus. We are lucky that we have a very welcoming and safe community here, and we can't wait to see you back on campus.
And while everyone was giving their closing remarks, two very related questions came in related to student clubs. And the question is, can student clubs meet? And the answer is yes, with a really, really big asterisk next to it. You need to take and practice social distancing. You need to be within the limits of what the state prescribes as the maximum size indoor gathering, which right now I believe is set at 50, but of course that may alter over time. If you need help finding and locating a room that's the appropriate size so you can meet and have social with appropriate social distancing, contact your department chair. They'll be able to direct you to an appropriate size room. We don't have specific guidance for clubs beyond that 50-person maximum, face masks, social distancing. And I would also add that in some cases, when you include a remote component to it, depending on what you're trying to accomplish, sometimes you can actually get greater participation. So take advantage of that. I know from participating in with one of the student chapters this past spring, they had a great remote session with a couple of engineers who are located in the Portland area. Had great attendance online for that particular session. So don't forget about that as an option, because having vibrant student clubs is part of being an engineering student, because that's where you put some of your engineering skills into practice, and it's also where you hone some of your interpersonal skills. And interpersonal skills are equally important to your technical skills to be a highly successful engineer. And I'll just close by saying thank you so much for participating tonight. I'll echo the comments that we're looking forward to having you back on campus. The place has been very lonely without you. And no matter what's going on, make sure you keep your eye on the prize. The prize is that engineering degree. Keep yourself on track to earn that engineering degree. When you need help, ask for it. And if there's questions out there that we haven't addressed, please reach out. We'll do our best to get those answers for you. Looking forward to seeing you back on campus in the fall. And when you see me walk by on campus, even with a face mask, I kind of look somewhat the same. You can still see my glasses and my hair that's falling out of my head. But from 6 feet away, just say hi, Dana, because we'll be looking forward to having you back. So with that, thanks for joining us, and have a great evening. So thank you, everybody.
Thank you.